Usually we talk about people being responsible for their own actions and suffering the consequences of their own actions. And the question is, what about children? Can children be punished or suffer because of their parents' actions? And this is a very good question, because if we say they can, it's not their fault. How are they being punished for something they never did? So the truth is, I believe that the Jewish approach to this is that ultimately everyone is responsible for their own actions. And you rise with your actions, or consequences come negatively because of your actions, sometimes while you're alive, sometimes for the soul afterwards. But I think we have to look at the way it is in a very real physical sense. If a child is born, and while the mother is pregnant, she's taking drugs or abusing her body in certain other ways, there are many studies that come out that this child already is born with a certain leaning and perhaps will already suffer some of the consequences of what their parents had done. If someone is brought up in an environment of immorality, in an environment of very negative, if someone's brought up in a place where foul language is used all the time, even not by choice, that becomes their mode of language. That becomes their way of talking. I was just last week with some dear friends who have beautiful twin sons, 5 years old. And they don't live in Montreal where I live, so I travel to see them. And when I go there and I'm sitting with the family, the kids come and give me a bag. And they say that this is tzedakah, some charity money that they've been giving over some time. And they want to give it to me to distribute for a good cause. I was telling the parents that you have no idea what you are doing to your children. You're bringing them up in an environment where they see not only that you give charity and help others and care for others, but you encourage them to give. Automatically, when they become adults and they start earning their own money, they on their own, we'll see, will start giving as well. No one will have to knock on the door and tell them it's their responsibility. So very often in life, the way it is in a physical sense, so it is in a spiritual sense. The environment that we are living in, the environment through which we're created, the environment through which we're nurtured, and as we know that most of our character is formed in the formative years of our life, the first 4 or 5 years of our life. And that environment becomes the clothing. We may make choices afterwards and work hard to break off, as many people break out of that circle of poverty, that circle of bad behavior. But if we don't, we're automatically affected by the different effects. So will children be punished specifically because of the sins of the parents? No, the parents carry their responsibility. But will they be affected? They could be affected just by having taken in and been brought up in that environment. If you sit in a place where people are smoking, secondhand smoke and its effect is automatic. It's not a choice. So that is how we get affected by our parents, which is how we come to the world, our nature, and our nurture, where we're brought up in the most important years of our life. But we're not doomed by it. We are not stuck in that type of situation. We can break out, and our own merits carry us. And just to share a fascinating story about how we can affect change and for betterment in our life, and not just betterment of behavior, but betterment of outcome, is a famous story with Rabbi Akiva, the great sage Rabbi Akiva, who had a daughter, and one of the stargazers, who Rabbi Akiva was very familiar with, one day told him, Rabbi Akiva, I have bad news for you. I've seen in the stars that your daughter, on the day she gets married, is going to die. And Rabbi Akiva, following the ways of the Torah, that we don't pay attention to people who read into the stars, etc., he obviously did not go tell his daughter, we're not getting married, I want you to live. He brought her up to find a nice man and get married. But always in the back of his mind was what he heard from the stargazer. And the day she got married was a beautiful wedding. And then she goes home with her groom, And the next morning, Rabbi Akiva wakes up early and runs to her home just to see she's alive. And he comes to her home, knocks on the door, and she opens the door. He finally breathes a deep breath. He says, wow, so good to see you. And he runs past her to the bedroom, and he's looking, was there any danger lurking? And he finds in the straw bed a snake, a dead snake, because there was a pin in the head of the snake. So he realized that his daughter must have put a pin in the mattress and killed the snake, and maybe even unknowingly. So he goes to his daughter and he tells his daughter, tell me, how was your day yesterday? What did you do different or special? So she said, I did all the things for the wedding that everyone does. She said, yeah, but did you do anything beyond what everyone else does? And she said, yes. During the wedding, I noticed while everyone was dancing, there was a poor person standing around and not sure where to go. He looked hungry and no one was paying attention to him. So I went from the dancing and I showed him where to sit, made sure someone got him food, and I went back to dance. So Rabbi Akiva says, that extra mitzvah saved your life. It changed your destiny. And so it is. When we are brought up in an environment, we're affected by that environment. But we are not tied down and cannot change it. Ultimately, we can make the change that can pull us out of that effect, or the natural spiritual effect or non-spiritual effect that we have, and create our own trajectory of life. A famous Hasidic master, a colleague of the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, Reb Zusya of Anapoli, very well-known personality, a great, great righteous man, holy of holies. And he once made a statement that after 120 years, when he comes to heaven, he's not worried that in the heavenly court will say, Zusya, why didn't you live up to the way Moses lived his life, with that dedication and love for God? He said, I'm not worried about that, because I'm not Moses, and I'm not any of the other great Jewish people that lived. I'm only concerned, why didn't I live up to the potential that was put into me, Zusya of Anapoli? So we know that everyone is judged uniquely and based on who they are. And based on who we are includes based on the environment we're brought up. Who we are is not just raw, my potential, but it's based on where I was brought up and who I was brought up by and the environment that I grew up in. Because every one of us is given the tools to deal with whatever is dealt us. And from here we know that sometimes the people who are most challenged are the people who have the greatest strengths. They just have to find it, because God never throws us something that we cannot catch, that we cannot handle. Everything He throws our way, we can face and we can overcome. It may take a lot of hard work, it may take a lot of effort, constant discipline, focus, inspiration, but we have it within us.
If you like that video, hit the subscribe button and notification bell below for hours of the best Jewish content online.